Now, to the FBI's arrest today of a Milwaukee judge accused of helping an undocumented migrant evade arrest. Here to discuss, Scott MacFarlane, Camilo, Montoya-Galvez. Scott, what happened?
At about 8 this morning, Central Time, the FBI went to the local courthouse in Milwaukee, where this judge sits, the circuit court, arrested her at the courthouse, then brought to the federal courthouse, where she was charged with felony obstruction, which is a U.S. code violation. The U.S. Marshals detained her in a holding area in the courthouse, booked her, took a mugshot, gave her an initial appearance. She's back May 15th for an arraignment where she'll have the opportunity to plead
released
not
on her
guilty.
own recognizance.
Yeah, it's a nonviolent crime released with little to no conditions. She can enter a not guilty plea at the arraignment, but that's not for a couple of weeks. A few different issues here. The allegations are that she knowingly, after saying it was absurd that immigration agents had come to her courtroom a week ago, then sent the immigration agents to her boss's office, the chief judge, then moved the defendant the immigration agents were there to get to a jury box seat, then out a door, a private hallway only jurors use, and after which the agents caught up after a foot chase with the defendant, arrested him for possible deportation. The feds say all of that sequence of events is felony obstruction. There's any number of flashpoints to this issue. This is going to pop out. But I think most fundamentally, there's an argument that arresting a judge is a provocative thing.
And what do we know about the individual at the center of this effort that the judge undertook and that immigration officials eventually arrested?
Yeah, according to the charging documents in the case, Mr. Flores Ruiz, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, was in the court last Friday on a domestic battery charge, a criminal case before the judge, Judge Hannah Dugan. He, according to the charging documents, was also ripe for deportation, that he was suspected of being in the country unlawfully and that he was flagged by a local Immigration and Customs Enforcement office for possible detention and deportation. What the Democrats who've responded to this, and there have been a lot of Democratic responses, is that arresting the judge on a criminal charge was unnecessary. It was an unnecessary, provocative move that threatens democracy, threatens the separation of powers, and sends a chilling message to other judges not to cross the president's priorities. You can expect this to manifest itself into something much larger than this judge or this domestic battery defendant.
Camilo, I want to pick up on a couple of other threads in the immigration space, and there are many this week, but today, some news on student visas and the Trump administration.
Sure. So just to level set, Major, over the past few weeks, the Trump administration has been revoking the student visa registrations of thousands of foreign students here in the U.S., including students who have had minor brushes with the law. Some cases have been dismissed, and they are arguing, the students are, that they are being unfairly targeted by the Trump administration as part of this broader crackdown on immigration that extends to people who are in the country lawfully and legally, not just people who are here illegally. And this record that is being terminated by ICE, or that was being terminated at some point, is what underpins their ability to study and live here in the country lawfully. And so these terminations prompted a lot of concerns among students and also universities and colleges, because they feared that they could be deported after this record was terminated. And this also triggered a flurry of lawsuits, dozens of them across federal courts in the country. Now, today, the administration has made a dramatic change in course, saying that it will reinstate the records, the registrations of these students that will allow them to continue to live here legally and study here legally. The caveat, Major, is that ICE is finalizing a policy to make these cancellations in a more formal way in the future. So this will not be the final say.
Okay. I also want to play for both of you. Our colleague Lilia Luciano had an interview with White House immigration czar Tom Homan. Let's listen.
I just want to read something that you said. In 2016, you said that people who are deported have already had a day in court. Their due process is over. You said that final order of removal needs to mean something. When people are deported under Title VIII, that means something. People are being deported without a judge's order. How is that different, and why shouldn't they have a due process?
Well, we're talking about two different things. What I said back there, we're talking about Title VIII. We never used the Alien Enemies Act back when I made that statement. Alien Enemies Act is something we're using now. So there's two different processes. Alien Enemies Act isn't something we made up. Congress created the Alien Enemies Act, and they created it in such a way there's less of a due process structure.
The Federalist Congress created it under the presidency of John Adams, just for the record. And it was a wartime measure, and it has been used subsequently, rarely, and also under dire wartime scenarios. Camilo, evaluate that.
This is the first time that the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is invoked during peacetime against a non-state actor. The statute says that this can be used during times of invasion or a predatory incursion by a nation or government. The administration is making this extraordinary legal argument that the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua is actively invading the U.S., and so suspected members of that gang can be summarily detained, arrested, and deported from the country. They have already invoked that law to send several dozen of these suspected members of Tren de Aragua to El Salvador, but we now know that their families, records, and investigations by 60 Minutes and others have found that many of the men sent there lack any criminal record and that the gang accusations that they have faced are in some ways flimsy.
Scott, I want to go back to the Milwaukee judge because that is a significant event in this larger conversation about Trump administration immigration policies. I want to play for you something that was on Fox News today with the Attorney General Pam Bondi. Let's listen.
When you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
Scott, evaluate that.
I think some of the critics of this arrest today say you needn't have arrested the judge at her courthouse. You have a lower level felony case. You can send a message to the judge to help turn herself in with her defense lawyer at the office. You can have the judge appear at the courthouse directly.
And of course, you know, some members of our audience, Scott, would say, well, the judge shouldn't have done what she did.
Yeah, I think what the allegation the Attorney General made there was that she was interfering with a criminal case. I think, in fact, the allegation is she's interfering with an immigration case, and she was handling the criminal case at the local level. This is a proxy war now. Whether that was the intention or not, there is going to be a battle over whether this is an infringement of the separation of powers or whether this is a righteous move by the administration to ensure they can do what they say they were elected to do. You can just watch the political ramifications of this blossom in the days to come.
With context and clarity, as always, Camilo Montoya-Galvez, Scott MacFarlane. Thank you. Quick programming note, you can see more of Lilia Luciano's interview with Trump administration border czar Tom Homan tonight on the CBS Evening News, 6:30 Eastern, right here. Well, not right here, but on CBS. That's the other thing, you know, it's 24/7. You got it all now.